Mario. He's known for his awesome jumping abilities, but what if we threw that idea out the window? Because today, we're gonna answer the age-old question. Is it possible to beat Super Mario 64 without jumping? The rules for this challenge are simple. I am not allowed to jump at any point during my playthrough. This includes normal jumps, double jumps, triple jumps, long jumps, side flips, wall jumps, backflips, jump kicks, jumping off trees/poles, and jumping out of water. I have no idea how this challenge is going to go, so let's jump into it. Wait, that's the opposite of what I want to do. You know what I mean. First things first, I had to get used to not jumping around everywhere. I'm usually wahooing it up to the castle, so it took some time to adjust to this new playstyle. I tried going to Bob-omb Battlefield first and was immediately worried when a normal dive didn't get Mario high enough. Luckily, a well-timed rollout just barely gave Mario enough height to get into the painting. I went for King Bob-omb's star first, but I was already running into trouble. Mario can't climb up these stairs, so I had to move the bridge so that it gave him just enough height to grab onto the ledge. I decided to use the warp in the mountain to avoid the gaps along the path, but even that required a tight rollout in order to get inside. The boss fight wasn't any different than usual, and he went down pretty quickly. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to grab the star since it spawns in midair, but a well-timed dive did the trick. Next up was the race with Koopa the Quick. I just used the same route as before and got the star no problem. Star 3 wasn't too bad either, although I did have to use the cannon to get the star since normal dives didn't seem to work. I went for the red coins next and they were all easy to grab. I was even able to grab the one by the chain chomp somehow. I have no idea how I did that, but okay. After that, I decided to leave Bob-omb Battlefield for now since the rest of the stars here are going to require the wing cap. I could technically do 100 coins, but I'll be saving those for the end in case we run out of other stars to complete. Womp's Fortress was up next and it immediately took a turn for the worst. I wasn't even halfway up the fortress before I got stopped by this ledge that was just too high up, and unfortunately, that's the only way up the fortress. Or so I thought. I had completely forgotten about the warp near the start of this level. Using it takes Mario near the top of the fort, which gives us a much greater chance of completing at least a few stars here. I first tried going for the Womp King star, but I couldn't get to him. For whatever reason, Mario would not grab onto the moving platforms. They seemed low enough that he could grab onto them, but no matter what I did, Mario would not hang on. Next I went for Star 3, and I was originally thinking that this was going to take a while, but by some miracle, I managed to dive at just the right angle and nab the star on my first try. I was ecstatic to say the least. At this point, every other star here requires something that isn't spawned in or is just too high up. Oh, and in case you were wondering, the L doesn't spawn in on this mission either, so say goodbye to that strat, I guess. I can't believe we were only able to get one star on one of the easiest levels. I'm scared of how the harder levels are going to treat us later on. Jolly Roger's Bay was my next destination, and I was thinking to myself, there can't be that much jumping at a water level, right? Oh, how wrong I was. I started with Star 1, and things were going well up until I drained the ship. No matter what I did, Mario could not reach the top of the ship, even with perfect swimming. I tried walking up the slope to see if that would work, but it just sent me farther down. Star 3 was another one I thought would be possible, and it almost was. I was able to get into the cave and complete the puzzle, but the star was too high up for me to grab. I have no idea why this star is higher than all the other ones we've completed, but either way, it makes this one impossible. Star 2 would have been an easy one, but the eel wasn't spawned in, so just forget about that. And don't even think about Star 5. Since I can't get to the Bob-omb buddy, that means no cannon. And no cannons means that the red coins are now impossible since the ship is underwater. But what about the jet stream star? That one should be pretty easy, right? Well, it's being blocked by the ship. Great. One of the easiest stars in the game is impossible. Terrific. Luckily, Peach's Secret Slide is a pretty easy star. At least it would be if we could get to it. The window that takes you to the slide is too high up to roll into, and there's not much room to roll in here anyway. That leaves us with Cool Cool Mountain, and it wasn't long before I bumped into another roadblock. The hill near the slide entrance was way too steep to walk up, so there goes like half of the available stars here. I decided to go for the red since I could maneuver the mountain pretty easily, and it ended up being possible, although one coin was giving me some issues. What I had to do was open up the cannon, start the lift, but immediately get off. Then I had to make this really precise cannon shot so that I could grab the coin and still have enough time to make it onto the lift. This took a really long time to pull off, but luckily every other coin was easy to nab. It wasn't long before I realized that there weren't any other stars that I could get here. This means we're going to have to be creative if we want to keep this challenge alive. Bowser in the Dark World requires 8 stars to get to, and right now, I only have 6. Luckily, I saved the 100 coin star in Bob-omb Battlefield for this type of emergency, and believe it or not, this star wasn't too bad. Most of the coins here were easily accessible and only required a few blind cannon shots. Now we only need 1 star left, and I had one idea of how to get one. Yeah, I'm gonna do canvas. Now I've dabbled with Mario 64 glitches in the past, but this was one I've never pulled off, and doing it jumpless seemed almost impossible, but after doing some research, I found out that there is a method to doing it without jumping, so I tried it over and over and over again without success. After about an hour, this is my best attempt.
Here we go!
Whew, now I know that didn't look too hard, but I was just really shocked that I pulled it off. Now that we finally have 8 stars, we can take on Bowser in the Dark World. And you know what? This challenge is actually starting to look up. Once we defeat Bowser, there'll be a plethora of stars to get in the... Oh no. So, we're kind of stuck. This ledge is way too high for Mario to grab, and there's just no other way around it. Normally I just skip levels that I can't beat, but this one is required to beat the game. And even if I could get past this ledge, there's still parts later on in this level where I'd have to jump. So unfortunately, no. It is not possible to beat Super Mario 64 without jumping. I wasn't really expecting this challenge to be possible to begin with, but I didn't think we'd get stopped this soon. It's unfortunate, but I might as well see what the minimum amount of jumps required to beat Super Mario 64 is. I mean, it can't be that bad, right? Oh no. After our initial jump, I crawled along this ledge to avoid dealing with the seesaws, but now we're at another point where I have to jump. These ledges were just way too high to even attempt diving at, and the staircase had no other feasible way up. After a few tries, the least amount of jumps I could pull off was 5. However, I felt that there had to be a way to save a jump or two, so I kept trying and eventually discovered that by doing a side flip near this platform, followed by a wall jump and 2 normal jumps, I could just barely make it to the top, saving us 1 extra jump. After that, I had to jump again to get into the pipe. In total, Bowser in the Dark World required 6 jumps. That isn't a great start, but it could have been a lot worse. After defeating Bowser, I decided to head to the basement. The first stage I tackled was Lethal Lava Land, and it was much easier than I expected. I was able to get stars 1 through 4 without any issues. The reason this level is so easy is because I can damage boost to get across gaps I normally wouldn't be able to. Stars 5 and 6 are both vertically based, so they were out of the question. But even so, this level was one of the most generous ones we've been to yet. But that generosity did not carry over to Shifting Sandland. I went for star 2 first, and I just completed it normally. It was actually pretty difficult since I couldn't jump to avoid the fly guy or the fire, but I eventually got it. After that, I went after Klepto Star, but he was really giving me some trouble. Normally you're supposed to walk up the pillar and jump to grab the star from his talons, but no matter what I did, Mario would not grab the star. I must have dove off the pillar like 50 times trying to get enough height. I even tried using the tornado, but nothing seemed to be working. After almost half an hour of attempts, I eventually felt the right angle, but damn, this one was just challenging. I went for star 3 next, but it wasn't long before I got stopped. With no feasible way to get to the top of the pyramid, that means I have no way of getting any other stars here. Next on this list was Hazy Maze Cave.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
The door leading to Hazy Maze Cave is on an elevated platform that's way too high for Mario to get on top of. I tried diving at different angles, but none of my attempts were even close. In the meantime, I tried going to the cap levels for more stars. Vanish Cap was out of the question since I couldn't ground pound the pillars to get rid of the water. The Wing Cat stage was much better though. I made sure to turn on the switch while I was there so that I could go back and grab some stars that I missed, including stars 5 and 6 in the Bomb Battlefield. Of all the stars in the game, the Chain Chomp star was one of the last ones I thought would be possible, but I'll take anything just about now. It was at that moment that I realized Big Boo's Haunt exists, so that's where I went next. And let me just say that this was probably the worst level we've been to yet. Every star here was impossible. It was either because certain objects weren't loaded in, or the stars were located upstairs where I couldn't get to. This really sucks because I was really counting on this level to save this challenge, but instead it decided to spit in my face. So, we're stuck again. I only have 17 stars, and right now there aren't any other stars that I can complete jumpless. There might be some 100 coin stars I could do, but even then I still wouldn't have enough, which means that in order to save this run, we have to resort to other measures. Now if you know anything about Mario 64 speedrunning, you've no doubt heard of a little thing called the Mips Clip. This is a trick that uses Mips the rabbit to allow Mario to clip through doors by placing him in between a door and a wall. Luckily this trick doesn't require any jumping, so this is a totally viable glitch. I had to do this trick twice in order to get past the 30 star door, but now I'm in. On to Dire Dire Docks. The sub-star in Dire Docks is required to unlock Bowser in the Fire Sea, and there was just no way I was gonna do this jumpless. I have to get Mario on top of the sub, and all of the routes require him to climb up these boxes that were just way too high up. The least amount of jumps I was able to pull off was 2, which isn't bad, but it's still worse than I would have liked. I decided to get a few more stars here before I left, including stars 2, 4, and 5. Star 4 required perfect swimming, but other than that, these stars were a piece of cake. Now with 22 stars in hand, I was finally ready to take on Bowser in the Fire Sea. And honestly, this level wasn't that bad. In fact, I only had to jump once to get off this pole. Damage boosting off the lava was essential, but luckily, there were enough coins throughout the level to get to the end. And surprisingly, the Bowser fight wasn't too hard either. I thought the moving floor would give me some trouble, but it was mostly easy to get around. One Bowser throw later and we can finally get upstairs to see which stars up there are possible. At this point, I know I'm not going to be able to grab the 70 stars required to beat the game. I've already missed way too many stars, and the levels are only going to get harder from here, but I decided to try out these levels anyway, because, you know, why not make my life a living hell? Wet Dry World was up first, and at first glance, it seemed promising. I was able to grab star 1 by using the warp and ground pounding the box, but after that, there really wasn't much I could do. I could get pretty high in the level, but it was never high enough to get any stars or even change the water level. How depressing. Unfortunately, Snowman's Land wasn't much better. I was able to nab stars 2 and 5, but everything else was unobtainable. Star 4 was so close to being possible too, but for whatever reason, this star is higher off the ground than every other star in the game. I spent almost an hour brainstorming ways to get this star, but after a while, I realized it wasn't going to happen. Maybe I was just having bad luck with this one, but either way, I'm throwing in the towel. Expecting the worst, I went into Tiny Huge Island and quickly realized that I was soft-locked. The Tiny Island was a bust since I couldn't jump out of the water near the start, and I couldn't even get to the huge island because the painting was too high off the ground. This level ruined my day pretty fast, and it wasn't looking much better as Tall Mountain was up next. I didn't even think I'd be able to get inside the painting since it was so high off the ground, but by some miracle, I timed the roller so that Mario had just enough height to clip inside. And believe it or not, Tall Mountain was actually kind of easy. Star 6 was the only star that was doable, but navigating the mountain wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it'd be. I only had to make this really precise dive to the cannon, and the rest was history. Now that I've completed all the levels on the second floor, it was time to head upstairs to the third and final floor. But before I did, I made sure to talk to Toad for our easiest star yet. Now all that's left is a backwards long jump, or BLJ for short. This glitch is used in speedruns to clip through doors and invisible walls at incredibly fast speeds. Since I don't have nearly enough stars, I'll have to use this trick in order to move on, so I'll just turn around and wait a minute. This whole time, I've been playing the 3D All-Stars version of Mario 64, which means... No! You mean to tell me that after all that, after all the tricks, after all the glitches, after all the pain, after everything, we get stopped by one measly door? So I say screw it. I've been at this for way too long to just give up now. I'm switching over to a 120-star save file so that we can finally figure out how many jumps it takes to beat Super Mario 64. I'll be counting the BLJ as one jump since technically they can be performed by only clicking the A button once. Now then, we're finally on the third floor, and it looks like we'll be headed to Bowser much sooner than I expected. That's because every other level on this floor is located high in the air. Now that that's out of the way, we're finally ready for Bowser. Right after we do 2 jumps to get up the stairs, and another one for the second BLJ. Okay, now we're ready for Bowser. This was by far the hardest level I played yet. Most of the platforms were either too high up or too far away, making this level atrocious to do jumpless. There were some tricky maneuvers I could do to avoid jumping in some spots, but most of the time I had to just suck it up. In the end, the best I could manage was 18 jumps. That is just disgusting, especially considering how close to the end we are. But it doesn't matter now. It's time for the grand finale. All I had to do was throw Bowser once and twice, and oh my gosh, we have officially beaten Super Mario 64 with as little jumps as possible. Now I want you to take your wildest guess as to how many jumps it took to get here. Are you ready? It took a minimum of 31 jumps. Holy sh! Whoa! This challenge was a lot harder than I originally thought it would be. I was honestly expecting a lot more stars to be possible, but I'm sure that with more planning and better techniques, even more stars could be completed. But you won't be seeing any of that from me, that's for sure. But with that, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more challenges in the future. This video took a really long time to make, so I really appreciate any and all support. So until next time, Goodbye.